So in my last video I got the Platinum Trophy for a not so little game developed by CD Projekt Red called The Witcher 3, a game that is easily in my top 10 favourite games of all time, and while it was an incredibly long Platinum to obtain, coming in at over 100 hours including the DLC, I thoroughly enjoyed all of it. Well, today we are once again playing another game by CD Projekt Red, and that game is... Now, much like with The Witcher 3, I had played and completed Cyberpunk before on the Xbox, although never achieved that 100% completion. But this wasn't because it was too hard or too long, this was due to it being pretty damn buggy at release, with a few bugs actually preventing me from getting certain endings and certain achievements. Well, it's been a decent few years now since its release, and it has had multiple updates as well as an absolutely phenomenal DLC added to the game called Phantom Liberty. And so, having just covered The Witcher 3, I thought covering this game and finally taking on the challenge of earning every single trophy would be the perfect choice for my next video. Now, I already know that I like the game. The question is, will the game like me enough to allow me to earn that platinum trophy? Well, there's only one way to find out. Also, I'd just like to mention that while I'm going to be playing the PS5 upgrade of Cyberpunk in this video, I have played the PS5 version before, where I managed to unlock a total of 8 out of the 45 available trophies for the base game, 4 of them being story related, 1 being side quest related, and 3 being related to combat and dialogue. Just thought I'd give you the heads up so you know why I'm starting with 8 trophies already obtained. Like with all of my videos though, we are going to be starting the story again from fresh, and of course we are going to cover all of it here. I'd also like to mention that in this video there are going to be quite a few cutscenes that I'm going to let play out, as not only are they important to the story, but I feel like they add so much more to the overall video. This one especially. I did have a copy without, and I feel like it just had something missing, so apologies for the extremely long video in advance. Don't worry, this won't be a regular thing, just for games like this where I feel like it really does need it. Oh, and one final thing before we start. Even though I have completed it and can confirm it's absolutely amazing, I won't be covering the Phantom Liberty DLC in this video, because it would easily make this an almost 3-hour long video, and while I'm sure some of you would love that, my voice won't. But don't worry, we will be covering it in the future, I promise. But anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's get into this absolutely phenomenal game. We begin the game by creating our very own V. After creating our character, we then get to choose between 3 life paths. These don't really change anything in regards to the story, apart from giving us a different intro into the game, as well as giving us some different dialogue choices throughout our playthrough, but again, they don't really change anything in the story. On Xbox, I chose Corpo. On my dildo only challenge run, I chose Nomad, and so it only makes sense that this time around, I choose Street Kid. We begin the game in a bar, currently fixing our bent nose, presumably after being punched in the face. The bartender Pepe tells us that he is unfortunately in a bit of debt with a local fixer named Kirk, and we tell him that we'll help him get rid of it. We speak to Kirk and he tells us that if we want to clear Pepe's debt, then we must steal a very fancy car for him that's worth quite a few bob, and we agree to take the job on. On our way, we are also introduced to Padre, who thankfully gives us a ride to our location, but on the way there, a couple of gang members try to get the jump on us.
Generous I can be. Well,
One more
Patty,
fucking word.
stay out of this. I don't know you.
And I don't know you, which means you're worth shit around here and capable of even less. Well, anything else?
It seems our conversation has come to a close.
Careful, Padre. Never know who's got a barrel at your 6. You neither, shit bucket.
Marcus, please.
Once at the parking lot, we find and get our hands on our very swanky car. However, we wasn't the only one after it, and another much bigger built thief holds us at gunpoint. Before we get shot though, the NCPD arrives. However, instead of getting taken into custody, we get beaten instead. A little while later, we then find ourselves on the streets and not in a cell, and once again, we end up fixing our nose. The other thief is also with us, and he introduces himself as Jackie Wells. Now, although he held us at gunpoint, which caused us to get beaten up by the cops, we decide to let bygones be bygones and instead begin a new friendship, and together we become partners in crime, where we find ourselves hanging out and taking on numerous jobs. One of these jobs has us working with a netrunner by the name of T-Bug, where we find ourselves making our way through an apartment filled with thugs in order to locate a woman named Sandra Dorset who had gone missing. We make our way through the building building, clearing out the goons along the way, and we find Sandra taking a not so relaxing bath. But thankfully she was still alive and we managed to get a trauma team out to come and pick her up. The next day we meet back up with Jackie, who tells us that he has managed to get in contact with a well-known fixer called Dexter DeShawn, who has offered us the job of a lifetime. However, he wants to meet with us personally before he shares any details. Before doing that though, we head to our favourite Ripper dog called Victor, who gives us a few upgrades, including using his Freddy glove to replace our eyes, because apparently it's as easy as popping out our old ones and putting new ones in. Oh, and all of this was done without being under an aesthetic, because we are a hard lad like that. We then meet up with Dex, where he gives us some of the details on the job. His client wants us to break into an Arasaka building, also hotel, in order to steal a prototype device known as a biochip. However, Arasaka is one of the most powerful corporations in the world and their security is extremely tight, and so we would need a few things in order to pull off the heist successfully. We first needed to get our hands on a Militech robot known as a Flathead that was currently in the hands of a gang called Maelstrom. On the way to their base we meet up with one of Militech's agents, who agrees to work with us and actually wants us to buy the Flathead off of Maelstrom by using an infected cred chip. However, once at the base we decide we want to decrypt the cred chip and take the money for ourselves, and so decide to put a bullet through their boss's head, taking the Flathead by force and then proceeding to fight our way out of the building. Thankfully the Militech agent Meredith was actually perfectly fine with this, so much so in fact that she lets us keep the Flathead and we even get to bang her a little bit later on in the game, so this was definitely a success. We then head over to the Mox area of Night City and into a club called Lizzie's Bar to meet up with a woman named Evelyn Parker, who was the person who actually ordered the job to begin with. Inside we are introduced to Judy Alvarez, who is actually quite an important side character later in the game, and together they give us more information about the job we are taking on, including how we can successfully get into Konpeki Plaza and steal the biochip from Yorinobu Arasaka's room. Here we are introduced to Braindances, also known as BDs. Typically these are used for the purposes of whacking one out when you're on your own. Think of it more like a VR headset, you know, you get to watch porn in full HD 360 view. This is basically what one of those are, but occasionally they can be used for other things, often more nefarious means. We use this BD to get a good look at Yorinobu's room and to locate whereabouts the relic is being held. At this point we have everything we need and we know the plan, and so we meet back up with Jackie, T-Bug and Dex to get the heist underway. After quite an awkward ride to Konpeki Plaza, we manage to blag our way past security, and once we get to our room we let the Flathead loose and use it to neutralize the building's netrunner, in turn giving us access to the entire building's mainframe. We then head to Yorinobu's room, take a few souvenirs and get our hands on the biochip.
Let me look to this, huh?
Relic intact?
Bioshard integrity, 100%. Guessing that's a yes.
Good, let's go.
Now everything was going a little too smoothly, so of course something had to come along and get in our way. This something was Yorinobu and his absolutely hench bodyguard Adam Smasher, and with nowhere to go, me and Jackie decide to head inside of a pillar in the middle of the room to hide. Just as we thought it couldn't get any worse though, we then witness Saburo Arasaka, the head of the company and father of Yorinobu, make an entrance along with his bodyguard Takamura. Adam and Takamura then leave the room, and after a little bit of talking we then witness Yorinobu off his father in order to assume control of the company.
ついに越えてはならない一線を越えたのだ。これまでお前の愚行には目をつぶってきた。だがそれもここまでだ。この裏切りだけは決して許せん。貴様の母親が生きていなくてよかった。息子の不甲斐ない姿を目の当たりにして心を痛めずに済んだのだからな。
おしこれで誰のことも許す必要はない。 wish to put the hotel on lockdown.
May I ask why?
Saburo Arasaka has been murdered.
Code Red initiated. Attention. Code Red has been initiated throughout Konpeki Plaza. Please remain in your rooms and follow all instructions given by staff.
何の騒ぎです。誰かが父に毒を持った。毒を。そう。頼信さん、しかし。竹村、お前の仕事は何だ。何の話です。単純な質問だ。答えろ。荒坂家の課長を守ることです。今後はもっとしっかり責任を果たすよう望んでいるぞ。お許しください、荒坂様。決して失望はさせません。
After witnessing Yorinobu murder his father, this causes the hotel to go on lockdown, and we see Yorinobu, Adam Smasher and Takamura leave the room, giving us the opportunity to make a quick getaway. While making our way out though, we are noticed by a security chopper and are forced to jump from the penthouse down into the Arasaka tower. We miraculously survive the fall, however Jackie ends up getting injured and the relics container ends up getting damaged, causing the relic's integrity to degrade pretty quickly, with the only way to halt the progress by sticking it inside one of our heads. And even though Jackie's body is also compromised and degrading pretty quickly, he decides to stick it inside his. Probably not the best idea, but hey, Jackie be Jackie. We then push through Arasaka Tower with our boy, clearing out the security until we eventually reach the garage and are able to escape in our Delamain taxi. Even though we had managed to escape Adam Smasher and the rest of Arasaka security, Jackie was unfortunately not in a good way. The shots he had taken were looking to be fatal and the chip inside his head wasn't doing him any favours. He decides to give us the chip to hold on to, and then the unthinkable happens.
Don't do it for me.
What?
The Excelsior package provides for the disposal of passenger remains free of charge. I merely require a destination.
I want to be with his family.
Mr. Wells's closest blood relative is Guadalupe Alejandra Wells, proprietress of the El Coyote Coho Bar. I will make sure to deliver him safely. Mr. Deshawn awaits you in room number 204.
See you in the major leagues, Jackie.
Although we had just lost our best friend, we still needed to finish the job, and so we meet back up with Dex to give him the rundown on what's happened. Of course, he wasn't too pleased with the amount of attention we had drawn and the fact that we now had the chip in our head, so he decides the best course of action is to off us and clear his tracks.
Alright then. Can't risk it, V. Remember our first combo?
What the fuck?
Seems I've chosen the quiet life after all. No blaze of glory for me.
We then awaken in the body, or at least the memories, of Johnny Silverhand. We rock out with our cocks out, say goodbye to our bandmates, and meet up with a crew to assault the Arasaka tower and blow it up. During this stage, we are given an incredibly powerful magnum which pretty much one-hit kills any enemy we shoot, and using this we are able to unlock our first trophy since revisiting the game, and that was the combat-related trophy Gun Fu for killing 3 enemies in quick succession with a revolver or pistol. We then plant our nuclear bomb in the elevator, upload a virus into Arasaka Tower's mainframe, and then make our escape. However, it doesn't go too smoothly, and we are shot and captured by a much more human-looking but still built like a brick shithouse Adam Smasher.
Smasher.
Told you, Johnny boy. Told you I'd end you someday.
We then awaken where we find Johnny in some sort of secret lab, and we witness the explosion that we had just caused. Saburo Arasaka is also here, but he just wanted to taunt us before using a program called Soul Killer to transfer Johnny's consciousness out of his body and into the biochip, the one that is now inside of our head. We then awaken back in our normal body and find ourselves being dragged out of a landfill by Dex and, oddly enough, Takamura. Karma comes back to bite Dex though, and Goro puts a bullet between his eyes. We then get bitch slapped by Takamura and he takes us for a little drive. We soon find out though that Arasaka not only wanted to get rid of us but also wanted Takamura out of the picture as well, and had sent agents to hunt us both down, and so we attempt to gun down the agents following us in the hopes of escaping. This unfortunately results in Takamura crashing the car, but we manage to call Delamain, who helps the both of us get back to our Ripperdoc friend, Victor. Thankfully, Vic manages to save us, although not everything was sunshine and rainbows. You see, when Dex shot us in the head, he had managed to shoot the chip, which had caused it to malfunction, and was now currently in the process of overwriting our consciousness with that of Johnny Silverhand's, essentially meaning our days were numbered, as eventually we would no longer be V and we would basically turn into Johnny, and that's if we don't die first. Now you may be thinking, well, why not just remove the chip? Well, unfortunately that isn't an option, as we will die without it in our head, as the process has already begun. Before we could even begin finding our own way of getting ourselves fixed up, we needed to rest, and so Misty takes us back to our apartment, as well as gives us a bunch of pills that we could take to either suppress the effects of the chip or speed it up, because for some reason ending our life quicker is an option. A short while into our prescribed rest, we end up seeing Johnny. However, he wasn't here to chat, and well, he wanted to kill us and take over our body because we wasn't subscribed to the channel.
Fuck. Fucking chip. Rip the thing out myself. No, wait!
But thankfully we managed to pop a pill and get rid of him for the time being. The next morning we meet up with Takamura, and he tells us that Arasaka has framed him for the death of Saburo and that he wants our help in clearing his name, seeing as we are the only living witness. In exchange, he agrees to help us find a cure for the cancer that is Johnny Silverhand currently taking over our mind. We agree, and he suggests looking into the chip's original creator, Anders Hellman, but that he would need to do a bit of investigating himself first. But he also suggests that Evelyn Parker, the woman who had ordered the job to begin with, might also be worth looking into for more information. We also have a little chat with Johnny, and he has some good news to tell us.
What do you want?
And I've processed some shit, changed my mind. Don't want you dead anymore.
He also has another lead for us to follow and tells us that an old friend of his called Rogue, who happened to help him during the assault on Arasaka, may be able to help us further. We tell him we'll think about it, but for now we turn our focus onto Evelyn. We then head over to Lizzie's bar and speak to Judy. While she wasn't overly keen in talking to us at first, she does eventually reveal that she hasn't seen Evelyn for a little while, but that she used to work at a dollhouse called Clouds, and that there is a chance she may be there. We head over to Clouds, and after having a little bit of R&R, have a chat with some of the workers, where we find out that Evelyn did in fact work there, but like with Judy, no one has seen her for a little while, but one of them does suggest talking to the club's owner called Woodman, who may know more. After sneaking our way up into his office, we confront Woodman, and luckily he avoided taking a bullet to the face and told us what we wanted to know.
Order from up high to recycle her.
You killed her?
No. I found a Ripperdoc who was willing to take a look. Yeah, said he knew something or other.
The Ripper. Name and address.
Don't know her last name.
Don't fuck with me.
I'm not. Goes by fingers. Clinic's in some godforsaken alley up on Jig Street. Want to find Evelyn? Look there. And don't come back here. Ever. While you're at it, take the elevator. Quicker you're out of here, the better.
Dark fingers on Jig Street. Sounds like a co-ed's wet dream.
After leaving Clouds, we witness the first serious effects of the chip taking place as we begin getting dizzy and coughing up blood. It's at this point Johnny then talks to us and he tells us that if we want to get cured, the only way that was going to happen was going to involve heading back to Arasaka and linking to something called Mikoshi, a place where all of the engrams of people that Arasaka had stolen were held. He also briefly mentions a woman named Alt Cunningham, however doesn't give any real information and she doesn't really play a role until a little bit later on in the story anyway. After chatting with Johnny, we then follow the lead that Woodman gave us and meet up with Judy at Jig Street to find a Ripper doc called Fingers. Now, usually I just straight up punch him in the mouth because he is an absolute dirtbag, but this time I decided to play it cool and diplomatic and instead let Judy take the reins, mainly because he can sell us a pretty decent bit of cyberware a bit later in the game, and in all of my previous playthroughs I never obtained it because I gave him a good old knuckle sandwich. He does tell us though that he couldn't do much for her, and so he called his fixer, who then sent 2 guys to come and take her away. While they were there though, they did mention something about a death's head moth virtue, and although this wasn't much to go on, we did have another lead to follow. We then tracked down a dodgy BD dealer who just so happens to be selling the death's head moth virtue that we were looking for, and with Judy's help we scrolled through the BD and managed to gather enough clues inside to pinpoint Evelyn's location, which just so happens to be in this random warehouse that was of course heavily guarded. We take out everyone inside and eventually find and rescue a very out of it Evelyn, taking her back to Judy's, allowing her to rest and hopefully recover. While at Judy's, we ask her to scan Evelyn's behavioural chip, and although she was close to saying no, she agrees and managed to find a virtue hidden within it. We then load up the BD and begin scrolling, where we discover that Evelyn was involved with some dodgy netrunners called the Voodoo Boys, who had hired Evelyn to get the chip for them as they were trying to get in contact with Johnny's old friend Alt Cunningham. However, the reason as to why was still a mystery, and we still had no idea how to even find her ourselves. With this new lead though, our next priority was trying to get in contact with the Voodoo Boys, and so we called up a well-known fixer called Mr. Hands and asked him if he can get us a meeting with them. He agrees, although it will take him a little bit of time, and so now we must play the waiting game. So now we had some time to spare, I decided the best course of action would be to follow the other lead we had gotten from Takamura to find Anders Hellman. Before that though, Meredith Stout, the Militech agent that we had met earlier before the heists, asked us to meet her at the No-Tell Motel for some fun time, and seeing as we were dying, we of course make the most out of this opportunity as we may not get another chance. That, and we can say that we banged someone working for Militech, or maybe she banged us, I'm not too sure. She seems like a very stern woman who likes to give rather than receive. Johnny then tells us that Rogue was probably our best bet at finding Anders Hellman, and so we decided to meet up with her. Unfortunately, her intel didn't come free of charge regardless of whether or not Johnny was in our head. So we head out, complete a couple of side gigs, and then head back with the right amount of scratch. She surprisingly manages to get the intel on Anders Hellman pretty quickly, and it's revealed that Kang Tao currently have him and were protecting him from Arasaka. Of course, Kang Tao wasn't just going to hand him over, and so we would need to launch an assault on one of their transport ships in order to get him. To do this, Rogue points us in the direction of an Aldecado member named Panam Palmer, and yes, I definitely would. The catch is though that Panam is currently indisposed in trying to retrieve her car along with the goods for another gig from a rival nomad, and so before she helps us, we need to help her. We did this by heading to an abandoned town and setting up an ambush for when the rival clan arrives. A few hours go past, but once they arrive we lay waste to the clan members and retrieve Panam's car. But this wasn't the end just yet. She still had a score to settle with the man responsible, and that was Raf and Shiv. Thankfully she knew where he was hiding out, and so we headed over to his location and cleared out the area of him and his little band of buddies. She then hands over the stolen goods to the 6th Street gang and completes her gig for Rogue. At this point it was getting late though, and so we decide to head to a local motel to stay the night and to start with our search for Anders Hellman in the morning. Before getting some rest though, we first have a couple of drinks with Panam, where she proves that she's more of a bloke than we are.
Rippers.
Well, here's to that thorn of yours.
Thanks for everything, partner. Another one over here.
Can't lie, this kind of turned me on a little bit, and so we of course had to try our luck.
Maybe we rent just one room.
Good idea. Noah has 2 twin beds in every room. We'll save some money.
Not quite what I had in mind.
Just what did you have in mind?
Just, glad to have met you. So I thought...
I'm glad we met too. That could have been a damned tough day. But thanks to you, it all went well.
Maybe... calls for a little celebration?
Sure. We can celebrate. But not today. I'm beat. Noah will need a room. Twin beds. Just for tonight.
After failing to get laid, we then wake up early the next morning and it was finally time to liberate Anders Hellman from Kang Tao. Thanks to Rose Intel, we know that a convoy carrying Hellman will be passing over a power station just outside of the city, and Panam comes up with the plan of placing explosive charges on the power station's transformers, which we then use to create an EMP blast when Hellman's AV passed over them. Unfortunately, the EMP wasn't enough to bring down Hellman's AV, but Panam's got more than just some junk in that trunk and whacks out a massive rocket launcher instead that she uses to bring down the AV.
That's how you do it.
Losing altitude.
We got the bastard.
Now you'd think this was going pretty smoothly, right? Well, you'd be wrong. You see, a few members of Panam's clan, including some of her closest friends Mitch and Scorpion, saw the AV going down and decided to check it out, not knowing that it was Kang Tao. And as we had just set off a massive EMP, all communications with them were down. While we do get to the AV and manage to clear out the enemies, we find out that Mitch was the only survivor and that Scorpion had unfortunately met his end, which of course hits Panam pretty hard. Of course she wants revenge, so me and Panam then head to a nearby gas station where she gets her revenge on Kang Tao, and we manage to find Hellman. We part ways with Panam for now and then take Hellman to a motel where me and Takamura question him on the biochip that's sitting in our head.
I'm afraid I have bad news. Your neural network has completely deteriorated. It can no longer function independently of the chip. The only thing I could
Woohoo, it's bargaining time.
Is to give you information on a good clinic in Sweden. They'll help you through the terminal stages. Minimize the pain.
Yeah, so if it wasn't apparent already, things aren't looking too good for us, and he wasn't going to be able to remove the chip. However, he does give us the blueprints for the chip in the hopes that someone else out there may be able to help us out. We then head outside where the chip begins to have a field day with our head, but during this time we have a few words with Johnny and he reveals the reason why he wants to take down Arasaka.
No one gives a shit.
Okay, I'll tell you why I want to destroy Arasaka, but I'll only tell you once. Want to hear it?
All right.
I saw a corpse strip farmers of water, and eventually of land. Saw them transform Night City into a machine fueled by people's crushed spirits, broken dreams, and emptied pockets. Corps have long controlled our lives, taken lots, and now they're after our souls.
Might be right. Can't really argue with you there.
V, I've declared war not because capitalism's a thorn in my side or out of nostalgia for an America gone by. This war's a people's war against a system that spiraled out of our control. It's a war against the fucking forces of entropy. Understand? Do whatever it takes to stop them, defeat them, gut them. If I gotta kill, I'll kill. If I need your body, I'll fucking take it. Fucking hell. You still don't see it, but you will one day.
We then get a call from Mr. Hands who tells us that he's managed to get us a meet with the Voodoo Boys, and so we head down to Pacifica. We end up meeting with a man of very few words named Placide, but of course, like everyone else, he isn't going to help us for nothing and tells us that he will only allow us to meet with their leader if we take on a job for him. This job has us head into a nearby abandoned mall filled with enemy gang members, and where a NetWatch agent was hiding out and spying on the Voodoo Boys. We end up finding the NetWatch agent, but rather than take him out, we hear him out. The agent tells us that the Voodoo Boys are a bad batch and that essentially we were sent here to free Placide's leader Brigitte and their net runners from the agent after he had froze them inside of their subnet, and that they would try to off us as soon as this job was complete. Now, I must admit, Placide didn't give us the best first impression of the Voodoo Boys, and honestly, I thought he was a bit of a prick. So we decide to let the agent continue his work, and in exchange, he unfreezes Brigitte, and he also gets rid of the virus that Placide uploaded into our system. Of course, Placide wasn't happy with this outcome, but we gave him a nice jab to the face to show him that we don't give a shit. Thankfully, we didn't get our face caved in though, as Brigitte was awake and tells him to stand down. She then tells us that she will help us to remove the chip, but of course we have to help her first. You see, the Voodoo Boys wanted to get in contact with a netrunner known as Alt Cunningham. However, the only way to contact her was behind the black wall in the subnet, and their hope was that with Johnny and the biochip, they would be able to contact her. We then take a dip in an ice bath where we can then enter the subnet. Our connection to Johnny is also strengthened here, and we are able to scan through Johnny's memories for anything in relation to Alt, and in the process experience some more of his memories. In these memories, we discover that Alt was actually a lot closer to Johnny than he let on, and even though we gave Alt the old Silverhand special, we still end up having a bit of an argument. Now, we aren't a complete arsehole, and so we decided to walk her home. During the process though, we end up getting jumped, which results in us getting a couple of blades through the back and Alt getting kidnapped. We end up waking up from surgery a little while later, down in a bottle because we're an alcoholic, and then team up with Rogue and a cameraman to storm Arasaka Tower to get Alt back. However, this wasn't a happy ending for Johnny, and Alt had unfortunately lost her life.
I would advise you not to disturb her.
What'd you do to Alt?
I put her to work on a project of a lifetime.
Get out of my way. Alt. Alt, come on, don't do this.
Is she?
Fuck!
Johnny.
The hell are you doing? Are you still rolling?
This is all we can do now, my man. Show people the truth.
Won't change her. She's not.
Johnny! Stop that! You have to kill him?
We gotta go. Johnny! She's dead.
Once out of the memory, Johnny tells us that Alt isn't actually dead and that she had contacted him and told him that she managed to free herself from Arasaka and that she was hiding in the subnet beyond the Black Wall. We then head towards the Black Wall, and while making our way through, we witness NetWatch wipe out Brigitte and the other netrunners inside the subnet, but thankfully Alt recognised Johnny's code and was able to pull us out before we also met our end. Alt then tells us that she can help us, although it wasn't as simple as removing the chip. You see, in order to help us, she would need to essentially separate us and Johnny into separate engrams, allowing her to disentangle our neural network before then uploading our engram back into our body and leaving Johnny in the subnet, although we would be a shell of our previous self. But to do this, she would need access to Mikoshi, the extremely powerful and advanced server inside of Arasaka Tower, which of course is heavily guarded, meaning we were in for pretty much a suicide mission. Nevertheless, we agree to help and exit the Black Wall and the subnet, where we then fight our way out of the Voodoo Boys hideout, finally getting to put down Placide, and where we also unlock our next story related trophy. After finding Alt, we then meet up with Takamura and an old friend of his named Oda. Oda currently works as Hanako Arasaka's bodyguard, and Hanako is due to be attending a parade that will be held in the next few days. And the hope is that he will help us get in contact with Hanako in order to prove our innocence and to assist us in getting into Arasaka Tower. Yeah, as you can guess, he says no, but this doesn't stop us anyway, and with the help of a fixer called Wakako, we manage to hack Hanako's float that will be used in the parade. Fast forward to the night of the parade, and we find ourselves making making our way across the numerous rooftops and balconies, taking down snipers overwatching Hanako and disabling their netrunner. We did end up having to unfortunately fight Hanako's bodyguard Oda in a little boss fight, and while the fight is easy, it is a bit annoying as he continuously turns invisible and meant that I was often just walking around the area trying to find him, so much so that the majority of the fight was me just trying to find Oda rather than actually fight him. After dealing enough damage, we do have the option to kill him, but we respect Takamura's wishes and just knock him out instead. After dealing with Oda though, we hack into the parade security system and witness Takamura's failed attempt at trying to talk to Hanako.
花子様、あなたはお許しを。どうか話だけでもお聞きください。三郎様は
父のことを口にしないで。
これが俺にできる最後のご奉仕なのです。三郎様の死について真実を明かすことが。花子様、無礼を働きたくありません。しかし V, run!
Shit!
He shot her.
Well, now we're really fucked.
We then make an escape from the absolutely massive amount of Arasaka security now closing in on our location, and Takamura gives us a location to meet up. Once there, we find out that he didn't actually shoot Hanako. Well, he did, but it was with some sort of sleep dart. The point is, she was alive and well, and Takamura asks us to tell her our side of the story and reveal the truth of what her brother did to their father.
I was there that night at Konpeki Plaza. I saw Saburo Arasaka die. He wasn't poisoned. That's a lie your brother made up and spread. Yorinobu is the murderer.
You must be mad to think I will listen to such nonsense.
Thing is, I'm damn determined and got nothing to lose. I got your prototype relic jammed in my head. By freak coincidence, it stopped. Then helped me survive. A bullet. And now, it's slowly killing me. One of your personality engrams is overriding itself onto my psyche. And if I don't find a way to stop it, well, it won't end well for me.
Hanako-sama, V is living proof of the terrible crime your brother committed. We can confirm every word he speaks, if only you will help him with the relic. Hanako-sama. Did you hear that? Go and check.
I got a bad feeling about this. Damn it!
On the ground, asshole! Don't move!
Before we get to finish the conversation though, Arasaka breach the walls of the apartment building and take back Hanako. At this point we also get split up from Takamura, and while Johnny tells us to leave him, we decide to do the hero thing and go and save him. Once we do though, we decide it's best for the both of us if we split up until everything's died down a bit, and while hiding out at the motel, we get a visit from a doll. But she wasn't here to give us a good time, she was here with news from Hanako. The good news is, she believes our story. How much of it we aren't too sure, but she tells us that if what we are saying is the truth, then she will help us deal with the chip as long as we agree to help her reveal her brother's atrocities to Arasaka, forcing him out of a position of power. We tell her that we'll think about the offer and then head outside to get some fresh air. Well, we attempted to, but apparently the air wasn't so fresh this evening and we ended up almost dying. We then end up waking up in an abandoned hotel, and Johnny tells us that while we were out he stumbled his way here to keep us hidden. At this point we have a bit of a heart-to-heart with Johnny, and in a way we were kind of best buds now. Johnny tells us though that when the time comes he will give himself up instead of taking our body, although he does have one final request, and that was to meet with Rogue, tell her everything and get her help in finally taking down Adam Smasher, but also requests that we let him take over our body so he gets to do it himself along with Rogue instead of us doing it for him, to which we agree. Now at this point we could theoretically meet up with Hanako to complete the final mission of the game. However, that will only reward us with one of the multiple endings that we need for their respective trophies. While I do have the opportunity to get these endings after completing the game anyway, I decided that I wanted to get everything else done and out of the way first, allowing us to get all of the endings back to back at the very end. This technically means that we are at the cleanup stage before even completing the story, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Now there is a hell of a lot to do during this stage, which essentially has us completing almost everything there is to complete in Night City, bar a few side missions here and there, but I'm gonna be honest, most of that isn't actually interesting, so before we get into all of that, let's talk about the most important things we need to ensure that we complete, and that is completing all of the storylines for our friends, these being Panam, Judy's, Johnny and Rogue's, Kerry Uridine's, and finally River Ward's storylines. Now I actually already completed Panam's storyline way back when I had played it previously, but as this storyline is related to an ending and because it's Panam, I will give you a brief rundown of what we had to do. We got a call from Panam asking us to meet her, where she reveals that the Arducado's leader Sol has been taken by a rival nomad group called the Raffens. Thankfully they know exactly where he was being held and were waiting on us to assist them in getting him out because they know that we are an absolute badass. We make our way over to the facility they were keeping him at, and the place was swarming with enemies, so we try our best to stealth through it, and honestly we managed to do so pretty damn easily. Once we find Saul, we find that he is in a pretty bad way, and so we give him a little pick me up. Thankfully the drugs kicked in pretty damn quickly, and then we escorted him out of the facility. Thankfully, as we got through this whole area without being seen, we are also able to make a quick getaway with no issues. However, heading back to camp was out of the picture as a massive sandstorm began to roll in, forcing us to take shelter inside of an abandoned house until it passed. After having a little catch up with each other, Sal ends up heading to bed, and we end up trying once again to get lucky with Panam.
Ma'am, I'm sure you'd be cozier with your shoes off.
After a full day in them, I'd fear a health code violation.
Nonsense. After a day as full as today, you deserve to kick back.
Oh? And what did you have in mind?
Got a few ideas. Think you know what kind?
No. It's really nice as is. Let's not spoil it, okay?
Right. So, friends, then.
V, I'm glad you came. Really. Thanks. It meant a lot to me. Do you hear that?
Nope.
The wind has waned. I can't speak for Haboobs, but when a Chinook rolls rough and rowdy across the plain, I sure can't get any shut-eye. Not a wink.
Skipping forward a little bit, we end up meeting Panam back at the Aldecado camp, where we find her and Sal are at a bit of an impasse. You see, Panam believes the Aldecados need to change and start taking action against the other clans who cause them trouble, whereas Sal believes they are better off staying as they are and even possibly siding with the corporations. Of course, Panam doesn't like this idea one bit, and her and a small group of others decide to go behind Sal's back to induce change, and their plan to do this, steal a Militech tank, also known as a Basilisk. Yep, we aren't starting small, we are going all in. Thankfully, Panam and Mitch already had a plan, so to start things off, we head over to a nearby abandoned train station to get our hands on a train that we could use to block Militech's convoy transporting the Basilisk. There's not really much to talk about here, but just know we successfully hacked into the station and gained access to the train we needed. After doing this, it was now time to wait until morning to ambush Militech, and during this time, Panam finally admits to us that she has feelings for us.
The thing is, I usually act before I think.
Noticed.
I know. But I also need impulses to act upon. When I do something spontaneously, I feel I'm being honest. Yet with you, I prefer to play it safe.
Why is it any different with me?
Because I truly care this time. Yet I fear I'll do or say something foolish and be left alone in the desert. I would rather keep you close. If only as a friend.
Try following the impulse next time.
Okay. Well, in any case, you've been warned. All right.
And to top off now getting in there with Panam, we even get a little cuddle by the fire while relaxing and having a chat with the rest of the group. The next morning we then use the train to block Militek's path, and after clearing out all of the guards, we managed to get our hands on the basilisk, which we returned to the camp. Of course, Sal was pretty pissed, but Panam was unsurprisingly able to shut him down.
What's the meaning of this?
Exactly what you see. The basilisk.
All I see is 2 trucks with giant Militech logos on them. Fuck, Panam, you can see them from miles away! You think we don't have problems enough on our hands? The Raffens could rear their heads at any moment. And now we have Militech to worry about too.
Stop it! Fuck! Just shut up already!
Do you want to serve corporations forever? Fine, go right ahead. In that case, we'll leave the basilisk as a souvenir of what this family used to be. Or you know what? Maybe next time we're attacked, we'll be able to fight back!
As soon as I'm done with Biotechnica, we call a family meeting to discuss this. Discuss you. Until that time, I want these trucks out of my sight.
And the basilisk? Can we put it together?
Do what you want. Just get out of my sight.
Continuing on, we reach the final mission of Panam's storyline. We meet back up with her at the Aldecado camp, where she reveals that the basilisk is up and running and asks if we want to take it for a test drive. Of course we say yes, and in doing so we also get to take Panam for a little test drive, if you get what I mean. Unfortunately though, the fun is cut short as we get a call from Sal calling for backup, as the Raffens had decided to attack the camp. So we both take the basilisk back towards the camp, taking out all of the Raffens along the way and stopping them from wiping out the rest of the clan. Thankfully we managed to successfully take out all of the enemies, saving the camp, and in doing so calls Sal to have a change of heart in regards to running the camp, and tells Panam that she was right and that going forward he wants her to run the camp with him. At this point me and Panam grab a drink to celebrate, and she asks us to leave with her and the clan to a new camp before Militek decides to come looking for the basilisk, and to further progress our relationship. We tell her that although we would love to, we still have a few things to take care of in Night City first, and that began by almost dying again from the chip.
I'll think it all over. I promise.
We wake up a little while later and Panam tells us that we are safe and that we are with the clan at their new camp. We decide to come clean and tell her everything that's happening to us, and of course she finds it hard to believe, but eventually realises that we are actually telling the truth and offers us the help if we need it. At this point though, we tell her thank you and give her a kiss goodbye, or at least until we see her again. This does bring an end to her storyline, typically earning us a trophy, but again I already have it unlocked, but this also does allow us to get arguably the best ending in the entire game that will earn us another trophy later. With one storyline out of the way, we can move on to the next, and this one is going to be the Johnny and Rogue storyline. You may recall earlier Johnny asked us to let him take over our body for a little while to talk to Rogue, and so now it was time to let him do him. We head to the afterlife, pop a pill, and let Johnny have a chat. Well, it turns out there was actually more to his plan that he didn't tell us about. This involved drinking, and I mean lots of drinking, getting a tattoo, probably of a penis, and hanging out with a stripper in order to get information on a man named Grayson. His time with the stripper didn't go as planned though, and he ends up crashing the car, but she does give him a lead on Grayson, writing down the words Ebunike. A little while later we wake up to find Rogue sitting in front of us, and it turned out that Johnny did eventually talk to her, and that if she could help us find the man called Grayson, there's a good chance that we will find Adam Smasher. Eventually Rogue gives us a call and tells us that Ebunike was actually the name of a ship down at the docks, and the hope is that Grayson or Smasher will be there. We then meet up with her where she gives us Johnny's jacket and glasses, which will go towards the breathtaking trophy for finding all of Johnny's belongings, but that will come a little bit later. For now, we head to the docks, board the Ebunike, and after fighting our way through Maelstrom forces, we end up finding Grayson. We take his gun, which actually turned out to be Johnny's absolutely overpowered hand cannon, and we question him on the location of Adam Smasher, although we didn't actually get any new information, as he tells us that Smasher is with Arasaka, something which we knew already. We also question him on the location of Silverhand's dead body, and he reveals that he was buried out in a landfill near the oil fields in the Badlands. At this point we get the option to kill him, and as much as I wanted to, I couldn't because keeping him alive means he gives us a key that allows us to get our hands on another one of Johnny's belongings. This one being Johnny's Porsche, which honestly is probably one of my favourite vehicles in the game.
Purrs like a dream.
Oh yeah.
Alright. Let's go see where they fucking planted my ass.
We then head over to the oil fields to search for Johnny's grave, although nothing suggests that he was even buried here, and even if he was, it definitely wasn't with any modicum of respect. Of course, this hits Johnny pretty hard, but thankfully we are able to talk to him and manage to convince him to forget about it and move on, as the past is the past, and for now, it's me and him. He then has one last request for us, and that is to call Rogue and allow him to once again take over our body to take her out on a date to make up for everything that happened in the past. And of course we agree. We then pick up Rogue from the afterlife, head over to the drive-in cinema, and after getting the show started, we let Johnny take the wheel.
Have fun, you crazy kids.
Even though things were going smoothly, unfortunately he doesn't get the happy ending he was after, and Rogue decides that she can't go through with getting her back blown out by a ghost inside another person's body, which is understandable. Regardless though, this brings an end to their storyline, allowing us to get another ending at the end of the game, and also unlocking us another trophy. With another storyline out of the way though, we can move on to the next, and that was Judy's storyline. While progressing through the previous two storylines, we ended up getting a call from Judy telling us that Evelyn had unfortunately taken her own life while Judy was out. Of course, this hits Judy pretty damn hard, and because of this, she decides she wants some sort of revenge and to also liberate Clouds from Woodman and the rest of the Tiger Claws, as she believes it should be run by the dolls who work there. We meet Judy at Clouds, where we find ourselves talking to a woman named Maiko, and as she was once a doll who used to work there, we figured she'd be up for giving us a hand. Unfortunately, she wasn't up for it, but she does allow us to have some alone time with Woodman, and where we get some sweet revenge for what he did to Evelyn.
Fuck you two doing here? Where's Maiko? Why'd she fucking call me here?
When Evelyn needed help, you raped her.
Could have also broken her neck. Hung up her head like a chandelier till it started to rot. Instead, I took her to a ripper. Was due a little something in return. She should be grateful. And so should you.
Here's my token of gratitude. Careful, they heard something. Let's get out of here.
Despite not getting help from Maiko, Judy decided to push on with the plan anyway, and we end up heading back to her apartment to meet her and a few of the other dolls who were ready to help. Turns out though, Maiko rather quickly decided to have a change of heart and met us there as well. The plan was to break into a heavily guarded Tiger Claw penthouse with the other dolls and take out the Tiger Claw boss called Hiromi inside. Maiko was coming along for the ride to see if she could make getting in a little bit easier. Once inside, we fight our way past the guards and head inside the penthouse, where we find Maiko with Hiromi as well as two other Tiger Claws. Turns out though, Maiko wasn't willing to let go of Clouds and instead wanted us to take out Hiromi so that she could run it herself instead of handing it over to the dolls that worked there. Even though we could let her and still continue the storyline for Judy, this wasn't part of the plan, and because she neglected to tell us her plan, in my opinion, there's just no telling what she would do in the future. So we decided to just kill all three Tiger Claw bosses anyway, preventing her from taking charge of Clouds. We then meet up with Judy, who was somewhat disappointed that she didn't realise Maiko was ultimately scheming behind our backs, but we give her some comfort in the fact that regardless of Maiko, our end goal had been achieved and Clouds now belong to the dolls. This brings us to the final part of Judy's storyline. A little while later, we meet up with her at a nearby lake where she tells us that she wants to take us scuba diving. We wasn't looking for any sunken treasure though. Turns out this lake actually housed her childhood town after it was turned into a water reservoir by the corporations. This is honestly the coolest mission in Judy's storyline and arguably one of the most interesting locations in the game. After exploring for a little while though, things don't go exactly as planned and we end up passing out due to the chip.
All that guilt I tried yelling out flew right back in my face.
Thankfully though, we end up waking up on the surface and find out that Judy had managed to save us. At this point though, we had enough fun for the day and decided to head inside the small cottage to get some rest. But after getting the generator up and running, we realise Judy's in the bathroom and she seems pretty damn upset about something. Turns out the Tiger Claws wanted revenge for what we did to some of their bosses and decided to go to Clouds and take their rage out on everyone inside, killing some of Judy's friends in the process. Now at this point, if we played as female V, we have the opportunity to have some fun time with Judy, but because we are a male and the fact that she doesn't swing that way, she just tells us that she's going to go and get some rest. The next morning though, she seems to feel a little bit better about the situation, although tells us that she's going to be leaving Night City for a little while, although she does give us complete access to her house, something which we will never use. This does bring us to the end of her storyline though, and we unlock another trophy. Now at this point we still have 2 more storylines to go through, but to save the video being even longer than it already is, we're just going to skip talking about them. Not saying that these storylines aren't interesting, but compared to the other 3, I don't feel like they are as important to V or the overall story. But they are both still very good, and I would urge everyone going through this game to play through these storylines. Just know for Kerry's story, we reformed the samurais and rocked one more time. We tried to off, but then end up working together with a 3-girl band named Us Cracks, and then we got revenge on Kerry's nemesis LB Kovacek by stealing and destroying his very fancy yacht, of course nabbing us another trophy at the end of it. This brings us to River Ward's storyline, which has us investigating the death of a mayor where we first meet him. After this, we assist him in investigating the disappearance of his nephew, which we discover was actually groomed online and kidnapped by serial abductor and murderer Anthony Harris, who was currently a vegetable in hospital. We find his nephew though in some sort of barn hooked up to some weird machine, but manage to save him just in time, and as a thank you, get invited for dinner at his sister's place. Like with Judy, if we are a female V, we do get the option to romance him, even though he still looked like he wanted to give us an absolute pounding while eating his sister's gumbo. But that pretty much wraps up his storyline, and we unlock another trophy for doing so.
See you later, V.
Now with the 5 different storylines out of the way, let's quickly go over all of the trophies we unlocked while progressing through them, and we got quite a decent amount, most of them being combat related. Our first was the True Soldier trophy for killing 300 enemies with ranged weapons. The second was the Gunslinger trophy for shooting an enemy grenade mid-air with a revolver. We then got the True Warrior trophy for killing 100 enemies with melee weapons. We got the Full Body Conversion trophy for installing at least 1 implant in each body part. We unlocked the Legend of the Afterlife trophy for reaching max street cred. We nabbed the Quicken the Dead trophy for killing 50 enemies while time is slowed. We completed all of the gigs and NCPD scanner hustles in the Badlands, unlocking the Wasteland trophy. We killed 2 enemies with the same sniper rifle shot, unlocking the 2 heads 1 bullet trophy. We unlocked the V for Vendetta trophy for killing the enemy who killed us within 5 seconds after reviving using the second heart ability. We used the Berserk cyberware to perform a superhero landing, killing at least 2 enemies in the process, nabbing us the Rough Landing trophy. We killed 3 enemies with 1 detonate grenade quick hack, unlocking the Damon in the Shell trophy. We distracted enemies with the Distract quick hack without drawing attention to ourselves 30 times, unlocking the Must Be Rats trophy. And finally, we unlocked the Master Crafter trophy for crafting 3 tier 5 items. Now with the storylines completed and a bunch of extra trophies, I could go and now finish the game and get all of the endings. However, that is not what I did, and instead decided that I was going to do the rest of the game's cleanup now. Now even though there was an insane amount of work to do during cleanup, and this took a fair few hours, I'm not going to talk too much about it as there's really not a lot to talk about. My main focus here was to now make our way through each district of the city, completing all of the available gigs and NCPD scanner hustles. For those not sure of what these are, gigs are essentially little jobs that we can take on for numerous fixers located throughout the city to earn credits, street cred and other rewards. And the NCPD scanner hustles were the same kind of thing, except we were helping out the local police deal with ongoing crimes. None of these are actually hard in any way, they just took a lot of time to do. Just know that completing all of them nabbed us another 6 trophies, bringing us closer to that platinum. Also, just a heads up, the Pacifica trophy didn't actually pop up on my screen and my PlayStation didn't record it. although we did get it. While earning these trophies, I also managed to unlock a few more, with the first being the breathtaking trophy for collecting all of the items that once belonged to Johnny, with our final item being his pants. We earned another collectible related trophy, that being the Wandering Fool trophy for finding and scanning all the tarot card graffitis that we could find scattered throughout Night City. We found all of the fast travel data terminals, giving us more locations to fast travel to and unlocking the frequent flyer trophy, but much like with the Pacifica Gigs trophy, it didn't pop up on screen. And we unlocked the I Am the Lord trophy for completing all of the Cyber Psycho sightings. These are essentially little mini bosses that we can find and fight to help the NCPD. And also, like the Pacifica and fast travel trophies, this again didn't actually pop up on screen. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not actually too sure why I had issues with those previous few trophies. My storage wasn't full, my notifications were turned on, and I was actively recording at the moment they should have popped. My PlayStation just decided it didn't want me to see that I got them, which honestly at first did have me panicking a little until I actually checked the trophies and realised that I got them. This left us with 2 more miscellaneous trophies to unlock before only being left with the endings. The first of these trophies were quite easy to unlock, and that was the Auto Jock trophy for purchasing all vehicles, something which you do need a hell of a lot of money for, but seeing as at this point we had pretty much done absolutely everything in the game, we had a fairly decent amount of cash. And the second trophy was the 10 out of 10 trophy for reaching max level with any skill. Now I can't lie, I thought this was going to be pretty easy, but what I didn't realise is that after completing all of the gigs and side hustles, enemies weren't as easy to come across, and I didn't feel like getting into constant fights with the police. And as I didn't take this into consideration while doing absolutely everything else, this led to around 3 hours of grinding out Pacifica for the enemies that spawn there. It was a very long and tedious process, but in the end we was rewarded with the trophy. And with all of those trophies finally out of the way, this brings us to our final few trophies of the game, all related solely to earning the different endings. Now, although it is possible to earn all endings on one playthrough, I will be making a manual save that I can revert back to, as Panam's ending is going to be the true ending that I go for on this character, and I plan on completing all of the others before completing this one, as you know what they say, leave the best till last. So heading back to the main story, we head to Embers and meet up with Hanako to discuss her plan on bringing down Yorinobu.
Yorinobu will soon call a meeting of the board. Representatives of all factions are expected to attend. The perfect moment for them to learn the circumstances of my father's death. I will get you into this meeting, and you will testify against my brother.
Testify? Listen, mind if I'm straight with you?
Help me get rid of Yorinobu. I will help you get rid of the construct.
After meeting with Hanako, we go to head back outside, however on the way end up passing out once again. We then awaken back at Vic's clinic where he tells us that our end is very close and that should we have another attack from the chip, we won't pull through it, and that this is our last chance to do whatever we need to do in order to get fixed up. We then head to the roof with Misty and have a few words with Johnny while we decide what plan we want to go through with. As I said, I'm saving the best ending for last, and so for our first ending, much to Johnny's disappointment, we choose to go through with Hanako's. After a little bit of a wait, we eventually get picked up by Hellman and Takamura, where we find out that Hanako has been placed under house arrest by her brother, and so we now needed to take out all of the guards protecting her. Once we do though, we then board an AV and take a ride over to Arasaka Tower. However, before heading to the board meeting and getting access to Mikoshi, Hanako decides to show us something first.
Otou-sama. この人よ。
お前は我が社から盗みを働いた。
Fuck me, Dizzy.
さらには娘の誘拐に加担し、今度は息子を葬り去ろうとしている。荒坂に随分と恨みがあるようだな。
Yeah, so it turns out that although Saburo was killed by Yorinobu, he had managed to turn himself into an engram. After speaking with Saburo, we then head down to the Arasaka board meeting where Hanako reveals the truth about her brother and expresses her disappointment in the fact that many of the board members knew what happened but failed to speak up or say anything about it. Of course, they all tried to brush it off by saying that they didn't know and that we have no proof, and so we decide to whip out Saburo's engram so he can tell them himself, as well as hand over control of Arasaka to Hanako. Unfortunately, Yorinobu wasn't best pleased with this and sends down a bunch of guards to wipe everyone out, so me and Takamura work together to clear out the incoming enemies and then proceed to make our way up towards Yorinobu. As we fight our way through Arasaka forces up through the tower, we eventually get a surprise visit from Adam Smasher himself, which I have to say was an absolutely fantastic way of introducing him personally to V.
Adam Smasher! I fucking knew it!
Obviously, he wasn't dropping by to offer us some tea, and so of course this meant that we had a boss fight on our hands. Honestly, I would have loved to have said that this fight was challenging, but our quick hacks and extremely powerful weapons honestly made it a piece of cake, and probably brought the fight to an end quicker than it should have.
Adam Smasher. Finally. What's your take, Johnny? Son of a bitch. It's basically scrapped. Suppose it'll have to do.
We then finally get to confront Yorinobu, but unfortunately we don't get to kill him. His sister, however, keeps to her agreement and tells us to follow Hellman so that they can deal with the chip, completing our first ending of the game for helping Takamura avenging Saburo's death, earning the trophy, the Devil.
Quite literally.
Turns out we wasn't interfacing with Mikoshi though, and we're instead currently being operated on by Arasaka in order to have the chip removed. We then have one last talk with Johnny, but because we decided to side with Arasaka in the end, Johnny takes this to heart, and while we wanted to end on good terms with him, he can't forgive us for this.
Remember what Dex asked you? Quiet life or blaze of glory?
Sure I remember.
Shame you chose wrong. Damn shame.
We then wake up a little while later from surgery where we find ourselves on an Arasaka space station. We end up staying here for quite some time, all while repeatedly doing the same mundane tests each and every single day. We also find out that Saburo actually transferred his engram into Yorinobu's body, condemning his son to life as an engram within Mikoshi. Eventually, we get tired of repeating the same thing day after day and decide to trash the place. We then get a visit from Takamura where he gives us some bad news. It turns out that even though the chip and Johnny was removed, the changes the chip made to our brain were too severe that even with everything we had been through, we would be dead before winter. He does offer us a choice though.
What are you talking about? Trusted you all once already. You let me down.
You may join the Secure Your Soul program. Hanako Arasaka has agreed to it. You will leave your body. Arasaka will store your engram in Mikoshi until a way is found to transfer it to a new body.
Store? Can't I get a new body right off?
With technology as it is now, this is impossible.
Seemed pretty damn possible for Saburo Arasaka.
He returned in his son's body. Tissue compatibility made things easier. Yet your phenotype, thanks to the chip, is unique. Arasaka cannot provide a suitable body at this time.
Nope, doesn't sound good at all to me. I agree to this, and they'll do whatever they want with me.
There will be a contract to protect you. Sign it, and you will live. It is written here that you relinquish all rights, but do not worry. The law is simply behind the times. An engram is not legally a person.
So I get to be corporate property first.
Like many Braindance stars and politicians from what I know, the program is a success. There have been no complaints.
And if I say no?
This is not a prison. You will take your things and return to Night City. Why you? I would sign. But the choice is yours. Think it through carefully.
We decided that we don't want to live out potentially the rest of our life as an engram, and so decide that we are going to return home to Earth and live out the rest of our life in Night City, officially bringing us to the end of the game, earning us another trophy.
How's the Earth looking from way up there? She as pretty as they say? Or is that just another lie?
At this point, we then reload the save and move straight onto our next ending of the game. This time we choose to let Johnny and Rogue go together to breach Arasaka and reach Mikoshi. We meet back up with Rogue where we manage to convince her to help us on one last crusade. Can't lie, it did take a little bit of persuasion and a little bit of guilt tripping, but it paid off and she agrees, and she even has a plan to do it. A little while later we then head inside of the subnet to speak to Alt to make sure she is ready and to get a program that will allow us to link into Mikoshi, giving Alt access. After getting the program and as we are gearing up and getting ready to head out, we also discover that Rogue has a son, which, I can't lie, kinda made me feel bad that we were about to take her on a suicide mission. Nevertheless though, it was time to hit Arasaka, and then we board the AV to take a ride up to the top of Arasaka Tower, where we witness Alt making her presence known by taking out the Arasaka satellite. Unfortunately, our AV doesn't make the entire journey though, and we are forced to jump out, but thankfully survive the fall thanks to the anti-gravity boots we got from Rogue. Like with Takamura, we then once again have to fight our way up through the tower with Rogue and Wayland, and once again get a visit from Adam Smasher. Yep, unfortunately Smasher kills Rogue, which means there is now one extra kid in the world without a mother. Honestly, I really do feel bad now for bringing her along. However, we couldn't change what happened, and so we made sure that she didn't die for no reason.
Listen to me, you bored son of a bitch. Rogue meant more than you or I ever could. Best there ever was. And you killed her.
She knew the risks.
Rogue had it in for you. Finally got what you... Rogue. You were the best. Always.
After saying our goodbyes to Rogue and dealing with Smasher, we then head into the server room and link ourselves into Mikoshi. Turns out though that even with Alt on our side and direct access to Mikoshi, like with what happened on our first ending, the chip's changes to our body had progressed too far, and even though Johnny can now leave our body, we will still inevitably die sooner than we'd like.
Just promise me one thing, asshole. You won't forget me.
After saying goodbye to Johnny, we then awaken as V sometime later, where we find out that V had taken Rose's spot as a leader and legend of the afterlife. We then get a visit from a man named Mr. Blue Eyes and are told that an Arasaka casino would be disconnected from their security systems at a set time, and that during that period we would be able to hit it with little resistance. Turns out this casino was in space, and we witness V take a journey out into space towards the casino for one final heist.
Hey, V, what's up, kid? Been a while since you came to see old Vic.
With another ending out of the way, we now only had 2 more to achieve, and thankfully these could be achieved almost the exact same way, and that was with Panam's help. After speaking with Johnny, Panam comes to pick us up and takes us back to the Aldecado camp, where thankfully Panam, Sal and Mitch had already come up with a plan, and that was to use the clan to storm an Arasaka dig site just outside of the city and use a massive drill to carve out a massive tunnel all the way to Arasaka Tower, allowing us to break in from below. We also enter the subnet and once again speak to Alt, where she agrees to help us separate from Johnny once we reach Mikoshi. Before we leave though, we were officially made a member of the clan and even get our very own jacket to prove it.
Downright injustice it is. It needs fixing. You're gonna be an Aldecado, which means this family will go to hell and back for you. Ready, kid?
Do your worst.
You're one of us now, B. You're an Aldecado, damn it.
Great to
Thanks
have
for
you
everything,
with us,
V, and don't worry. We'll get you into that Mikoshi. Isn't that the way
Welcome
of
to
it?
the family.
A warm welcome for our newest Aldecaldo! Come on, V!
Welcome to the
Say
clan!
your piece!
The most
Jacket's incredible.
See? He likes it.
Listen, as soon as we're back from Mikoshi, we'll celebrate. And I know just the place. My treat, of course.
We'll hold you to that.
A while later, we then head to the dig site with the rest of the clan and using the Basilisk, hold off incoming Militech forces while Carol and Mitch hack into the massive drill. After quite a lengthy fight, they eventually manage to hack into the drill, giving us a direct path to Arasaka. Once inside, we managed to sneak past all of the enemies and managed to give Alt access to Arasaka Tower, allowing her to instantaneously dispatch of all the forces that would have otherwise caused us a bit of trouble. However, as you probably would have guessed, this still didn't stop us from running into a certain Adam Smasher.
You can do this. Yeah, this time Saul unfortunately met his end from the hands of Adam Smasher, and as much as it sounds like a dick thing to say, I'm so glad it wasn't Panam. Of course, like all the other times, we avenge Saul by killing Smasher and then link into Mikoshi. Much like with our previous endings though, Alt tells us that even though she had successfully separated us, the effects of the chip had progressed too far, and once again, if we choose to stay in our body, we would die rather soon. Again, I'm saving the best ending for last, and so this time I decide to let Johnny keep our body while we head off with Alt beyond the black wall.
What? A little guilt creeps in and that's that? You give up?
Stop. Just stop.
Gonna just roll over instead of fighting for what's yours? Decommiss yourself because you're too fucking scared to say goodbye?
It's my decision. Let me make it.
You're loyal, I'll grant you that. But damn it, are you dense? Haven't changed a bit since we met.
I'm so damn tired, Johnny. I just want to start anew. Even if I don't know what that means. It better be good for you, too.
V, I'm just scared for you.
I'll see you around, Johnny.
We then fast forward to some time later where we find ourselves as Johnny taken to life inside of a new body. Turns out though we wasn't completely alone and kind of had a new friend called Steve who was very much into music like us, and we ask him if he can give us a ride to the guitar store to pick up a new guitar. After picking up a new guitar, we then head over to the cemetery where we pay our respects to V, as well as leaving him the necklace with the bullet that almost killed him at the start of the game, and started this whole thing to begin with. After saying our final farewells, we then decide to catch a bus to God knows where, leaving the guitar we had just bought to Steve, and saying goodbye to Night City for good.
You forgot your guitar!
No, I didn't. Haven't forgotten a thing. Never will.
Avy, I know you're a free bird and all, and you're gonna do what you want when you want.
At this point we are now left with one ending to obtain, and thankfully we can just reload an autosave back to where we had entered Mikoshi, and this time we choose to keep our body.
Jesus, I'm about to shred a comrade and a chunk of my own soul in one fucking go. Got no idea what that shit feels like.
Sounds kind of familiar. We know that attitude. CV, stand with you whether you like it or not.
For fuck's sake, defend yourself. You're not even trying.
You know, you taught me to let go sometimes. Save my strength for one last big bang. Goodbye, V. And never stop fighting.
After returning to our body, we then find ourselves standing on the dam with Panam, taking in Night City one final time. We then meet up with Mitch and the rest of the Aldecados, where we then use an old smuggling tunnel to bring the Basilisk with us without getting spotted by the border patrol, and where we can leave Night City and its outskirts for good, starting a new life with Panam and the Aldecados, well, for as long as we have left anyway. Unlocking our final trophy of the game, as well as Cyberpunk 2077's Platinum Trophy.
perfect. All great, Panam. We're going home.
Hey, V. How's life out there in the desert? Getting some sun? Some fresh air in those lungs? Don't forget to get yourself a checkup every once in a while.
And with that being our final ending, and with us now having a brand new platinum trophy in our collection, this brings us to the end of this absolutely phenomenal story and game. So as many of you probably know, Cyberpunk had a very bumpy start, from the frame drops to almost game-breaking glitches. There was quite a few to experience, which even if you don't look at all the videos online, I can definitely confirm myself, as back at release there was a bug that prevented me from getting certain endings of the game. Well, the absolutely fantastic news is that I would say all of those bugs have now been fixed. Throughout my entire playthrough on PS5, I didn't encounter one single bug. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Of course the game crashed once or twice, but no actual bugs were encountered. This finally allowed me to enjoy the game and immerse myself in Night City and take on its absolutely fantastic story. Most importantly, finally being able to experience all of the game's endings. Speaking of story, I for one absolutely love it. There's not really much I can say bad about it. The idea of having something slowly consume your mind and doing everything you can to find a way to stop it is genuinely engaging. The most important part of this is that you actually feel some sort of emotions for V. You want him or her to succeed and pull through, even if like me you really enjoyed having Johnny Silverhand in your head. But ultimately this also leads you to feeling bad for him when it's time to get rid of him. I mean, it actually feels like you are losing a part of yourself. The side characters add a hell of a lot more to the overall experience, and unlike with a lot of games where side characters are literally just there as side characters, the ones in this game truly feel like they are meaningful in some sort of way, and the character development for each of them is absolutely insane. The combat itself is quite fun with multiple options to take on enemies. You've got stealth, guns, melee, quick hacks, cybernetics. This game really does give you a lot of options on that regard, and that's something I can always appreciate. Night City and its surrounding areas are an absolute wonder to explore and is genuinely beautiful to look at. In some cases, it really does feel like a real living, breathing world that we could see sometime in the future. Finally, the game's soundtrack is an absolute masterpiece and adds so much more to the game, from the sad moments to the absolutely manic moments taking out dozens of enemies. The music really does help elevate all of it. Then again, none of what I said should come as a surprise, as it was made by CD Projekt Red, the absolutely brilliant minds behind the Witcher series of games. Like I said in the beginning of the video, even though I have completed the Phantom Liberty DLC, I will be saving that for another video, as I was wary of how long the main game would be anyway, and I didn't want to upload something coming in at probably 3+ hours long. But just know it is absolutely phenomenal and I loved every second of it. So this leaves us with one final question to answer. Would I recommend this game to anyone else looking for a good platinum? And the answer has to be yes, 1000 times over. Obviously, just be aware that there is a hell of a lot of cleanup involved. But anyway guys, this finally brings us to the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed it, then a like and a share would be very much appreciated. It shows your support, and your support is always appreciated on the channel. And if you'd like to see more content like this, feel free to check out my previous videos or the Platinum Trophy playlist, which I'll link in the description below. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on to stay up to date with everything I upload. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.